Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody is somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Honor a man that has been a champion of freedom all around the world. That's right, that's right. And Reverend Jackson, on your 83rd birthday, we salute you. Thank you for your service to all of humanity, whether it's presidents, kings, and queens, or people with no titles or no labels. You have worked to ensure the rights of the least of these is remembered and protected, and as well as holding those in power accountable. We are here today at the behest of our great mayor because he wanted to give you your flowers while you live. Thank you, Mayor Johnson. At this time, we are going to open up with prayer, because it's just right to have prayer. Reverend Charles Jenkins is going to come and open us up in prayer.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy birthday, Reverend Jackson. Somebody make some noise for the Reverend. We celebrate our great mayor and our first lady. Come on, let's celebrate them. Come on, let's all bow our heads. Father, thanks so much for this auspicious and momentous occasion to celebrate a man who has meant so much, means so much, and will forever mean so much to Chicago and to the entire world. Thank you for his love, his life, his legacy, and his legend. Thank you for his unselfish, selfless, sacrificial commitment to men, women, boys, and girls at every level of life. For all of his life, he has poured in and filled up so many people with goodness. Thank you for his commitment for a more perfect union and his commitment to use his life as a river and not a swamp. A river where blessings flow through and flow to. Thank you for Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. We pray your continued blessings on him.
A celebration at City Hall today to honor iconic civil rights legend, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.
Mayor Johnson presenting the Reverend with an unforgettable and truly meaningful gift.
Happy birthday!
On his 83rd birthday, Reverend Jesse Jackson is feeling the love. This afternoon at City Hall, Mayor Brandon Johnson presenting the civil rights icon with a key to the city.
The key to the city of Chicago.
Long a fixture here in Chicago, it was his mentor, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who sent Reverend Jackson to Chicago in the 1960s to fight for better housing for the city's black residents. After King's murder in 1968 in Memphis, Jackson stayed in Chicago.
I am somebody. My mind.
Where his Operation Push would be home base for his national and, at times, world efforts to push for equity, racial equity, and economic equity. At times counseling presidents such as Bill Clinton during his years in office. His close friend, Reverend Dr. Jeanette C. Wilson, praised him for his decades-long accomplishments.
We had to have eat-ins, we had shop-ins, we had buy-ins. And then at Christmas, he said, I want you to know what Christmas really looks like for black people. And so we didn't have a Santa Claus with a white beard and white face and white hair. We had Black Santa Claus.
At today's birthday celebration, City Council members and union leaders alike gathering to send their love and support.
101, take one. Who is Jesse Jackson?
Well, you know, it's been a long journey. And I thank God for allowing me to be a long distance runner. I am a servant whose work is not complete.
Have you ever witnessed the resolve of a real champion?
I am somebody.
Have you ever walked with Reverend Jesse Jackson on the road to battle? Have you ever seen him persist when others resist?
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it.
Have you ever seen him take the road less traveled?
We are humane people. We fight for justice and fairness.
Always a helping hand on the road to freedom. Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and the Rainbow Push Coalition, still the long-distance runner, and still no more impossible dreams.
Can I be admitted? No, sir, you cannot be admitted. Why? I am not going to serve you. Because of my race? I'm not going to serve you.
I didn't decide to become branded as a civil rights sit-inner. I couldn't use the public library, so I sat in and I was arrested. The sacrifice and some risk involved in that.
Jesse Jackson has done that with me all his life. When I was tired, he manned the barricades. He made sure that as best he could, and that as best we could, our people would be all right.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. appoints Reverend Jackson in 1966 to head Chicago's Operation Breadbasket, Southern Christian Leadership Council's self-help economic uplift program. In August of 1967, Dr. King appoints Reverend Jackson National Director of Operation Breadbasket, which negotiates hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars for African American neighborhoods across the country.
I was a little boy who grew up in a community where black children could not go to the public schools. And lawyers came into our community and made them open up the public schools, and I thought that was going to be the end of the struggle. And what I learned quickly is that it was just the beginning of the struggle. A few years later, Dr. King was assassinated, and it was challenging to navigate all the ways you could be made to feel not as good as other people, not as smart as other people. And it was in the middle of that struggle that I began listening to you. And you gave these speeches, and you would ask people to repeat after you, and then you would say, I am somebody. And I remember watching the TV and saying over and over again, I am somebody.
Jesse Jackson, all his life, when you hear him say, I am somebody, he's saying that to himself as much as he's saying it to anybody else.
Nice. Beautiful.
My father has learned to take the broken pieces of life, the shredded pieces, the discarded pieces, and come up with something beautiful. He is a minister first. Many people see him as a politician first. Following in Jesus' tradition, that's what my father has done. Cast light into dark places to set the captive free.
We need our jobs. We need our money. We need our protection under the law. Parkeyism is racism. Wake up. Blow your trumpet. Let the world know we are displeased. We do not like it.
We talked about an organization that would involve people in a united struggle, and so it was people united at first to save humanity, and then at a later point it became people united to serve humanity.
Just what is Operation Push? Well, Operation Push is a civil economics organization. It's a religious organization with an economic mission. We believe that the black church is the political and spiritual salvation of our people. And it is to that extent that we challenge churches and churchmen to get involved.
I think when I went to jail the first time, like I was born again. Something happened within me. A fire was lit that never went out, really.
He formulated what he called a rainbow coalition of the dispossessed. That was African Americans, Latinos, poor people. What was surprising was a number of whites who really came up to him and saying, "You're the only person out of there who represent my point of view."
One must always go back, as Mrs. Jackson would often tell us, back to Dr. King. He sent him to Chicago. And I think when you think about what he has meant to this city and to each one of us who live here, work here each and every day, he has led fights for workers. He has negotiated with teachers union, with the firefighters union. He has been that one that ever since he was ordained by Reverend Clay Evans at Fellowship and stood in a food line, he said every year we had to make sure that we had food for those who were hungry. And so one year he had a mountain of food for people in the city who had been forgotten, had been left out, had not been thought about. So when I think of Reverend Jackson, he's been everywhere in Chicago. He marched through Gage Park. He marched through Bridgeport, where we now live, where we now work. And now when I think about how he fought for CHA to be open, how he fought for teachers, black teachers who were not certified, Reverend Jackson made sure they were grandfathered in and they didn't have to take another test to teach our children. Reverend Jackson fought for equity in public education. And then when he first came here, he was concerned about the fact that we had black businesses that had no access to have their products in the stores. We had hair care products that he fought to get in Walgreens and other stores. He fought for our food companies to showcase their wares on the shelves of stores. And then he taught us, if you don't cut us in, we'll cut you out. And so we boycotted A&P and National Tea. And then we had 6 black banks in the city of Chicago because of Reverend Jackson. We used to call them piggy banks because they didn't have the kind of investments that other banks had. And so he expanded opportunities for the banks. And then for black restaurants, he made sure that we knew who they were. And we had to have eat-ins, we had shop-ins, we had buy-ins. And then at Christmas, he said, I want you to know what Christmas really looks like for black people. And so we didn't have a Santa Claus with a white beard and white face and white hair. We had black Santa Claus. We had a soul Santa Claus. And then I think people don't know Mrs. Jackson is the most creative of all of the Jacksons. So one of the things that I learned was her artistic bent. And you know, Expo in many ways was Reverend Jackson gets all of the credit, but Mrs. Jackson worked with prisoners and prison art. And I remember showcasing some of the most talented painters and sketchers in the world were showcased at Expo. Reverend Jackson made sure we knew about the Jackson 5 before they were the Jackson 5. We knew about Michael Jackson at Black Expo, at Amphitheater. So all of these things that Reverend Jackson's brought to Chicago. And one thing I want to say as I take my seat, I remember that in all that he's done, and all the negotiating, and all of the marches, and all of the sacrifices of time and talent that he made, no mayor, other than this mayor, thought enough to say thank you by offering him a key to the city. And so we thank you, Mayor Johnson. We are so excited. It took, just stand and give him a round of applause. And so when I think about this freedom fighter, he has worn so many people out. He wears out iron. And so, Reverend Jackson, we love you. We thank you for you're still here 83 years later, 60 years in Chicago, 40 years fighting for us. And we thank you so very much. God bless you.
As a member of the Jackson family, I am indebted to the respect and kindness that you show my father on this day of his 83rd birthday. And what a fitting way to wish Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson a very happy birthday, giving him a key to the city he has truly considered to be his home.
We're excited to get more people involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in impacting public policies, if you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, you can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. For an annual membership of $35, or if you're a student or senior, $15, you can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. How do you become a member? Visit our website at rainbowpush.org and press join. Or maybe you'd like to support us. You can text the word push, that's PUSH, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount you feel comfortable giving. You can also call us at 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
I was an undergraduate student in 1984. You were running for president. I was a student government president in North Carolina Central. You came to campus. And I can remember real well, they had a major politician that was supposed to be introducing you. And when you came in, you said, no, I want a student. I want that student. I want the student government president. That happened to be me. And I had the privilege that day of introducing you to about 1,000 students or more in B. Duke Auditorium. And it was not only a tremendous experience for me, but a tremendous experience for the students.
I came into the organization as a youth, brought by my mother, who was movement conscious. And we found a home at Operation Push in the early days. I was arrested as a teen, taking over the school board during a protest, fighting for Manford Bird to become school board president. And Operation Push came that night to bail us out. And for me, the rest is history. I began volunteering.
Change comes about when our young black boys and young black girls in this country could see that there are those of us who are willing to make the supreme sacrifice and take the consequences because we have to leave a legacy to them.
Reverend Jackson, in our judgment, helped to enable a new generation of African Americans to serve. Right. This was the civil rights movement deciding that it was time to get involved in electoral politics, and Reverend Jackson was that vehicle for many of us to get involved.
America's future, the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
The manager of Walter Mondale's campaign called him out, and he said, you know, tomorrow night's speech is very important to the Democratic Party. Can you kind of give me an idea of the direction that you're going to go? And he said, tomorrow night you will either be a chimp, a chump, or a champ, but you won't know until tomorrow night.
But just because you're born in the slum does not mean the slum is born in you, and you can rise above it. We must leave racial battleground and come to economic common ground and moral higher ground. America, our time has come, and come November, there will be a change because our time has come.
I remember 1988. I just remember Run, Jesse, Run. We were just cheering and chanting, and the impact of him, of seeing him at the DNC.
He was telling people, regardless of color, if they're really being poor, ignored by their government, or have been marginalized by a political and economic system that really doesn't care about them, that you should be supporting him.
We had what money could never buy in a campaign. We had passion.
Jesse Jackson, you see me on TV, but you don't know the me that makes me me.
He talked about not being able to do the stuff folk take for granted. And the young guys who didn't want to talk, didn't want to hear, they started crying because he was able to convince them, I do really understand. You think you got a bad record? What my name is, where it came from, what my background is.
You see, I was born to a teenage mother who was born to a teenage mother. I understand. I know abandonment and people being mean to you and saying you're nothing and nobody and can never be anything. I understand. I understand when nobody knows your name. I understand when you have no name. I understand.
And he's talking about it to people who are sitting there thinking, that's me, that's me, that's me. And he's running for president. And he's on the stage. And the message he sent that was more than just subliminal, there was this reality that said, you know what? I can do that. Because he understands what I'm saying.
Push Excel's goal is to inspire students to strive for excellence in education in spite of personal, family, and community challenges that they might experience. How do we do this? By advocating for educational policies that guarantee equal funding for all students without regard to race or economic standing. By engaging parents, students, and teachers in pursuing high-quality education and striving for educational excellence at every level. And by forging partnerships with community-based and public sector stakeholders in education. Now, Push Excel is a national model program with the purpose of connecting principals, parents, popular personalities, and students in a bond and to support students at every level on the educational ladder. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you. And remember to keep hope alive.
Down with dope, up with hope. If you're somebody, put those hands together. For decades, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson has been reminding the world that we are somebody. In an empire that makes us often feel like we are nobodies, there is a preacher on the south side of Chicago that keeps reverberating a word of encouragement and inspiration to children and seasoned people alike to remind us that we are somebody. Reverend Jackson, we've really just gathered here today on your 83rd birthday to simply say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for walking with kings and queens and never losing the common touch. Reverend Jackson can make an ant feel like they're special. Reverend Jackson has been able to share light into this world, and we cannot celebrate him without celebrating his entire family, his wife and his children, and we thank you all. We thank you for sharing your beloved with all of us. And to one of the greatest mayors on this side of heaven and his wife, we salute you and we thank you. We thank you. And you're right, it does feel like church in here. And we're grateful that Push, Rainbow Push Operation Breadbasket had its commencement in the basement of Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. And we're grateful that our church stands today because you assisted Reverend Clay Evans in securing the loan so that the building could be built after it was delayed because of white supremacy and racism in this city. And Fellowship has come also to say thank you, Reverend Jackson. We are here with our Pastor Emeritus, Pastor Charles Jenkins, and a host of people to thank you because you have helped us to understand on every level that if there's a river, we can cross it. If there's hope, we can share it. If there's a goal, we can meet it. If there's a building, we can construct it. If there's a lesson, we can learn it. If there's a mountain, we can climb it. If there's a storm, we can survive it. If there's a class, we can pass it. If there's a poem, we can write it. If there's a hell, we can miss it. If there's a heaven, we can get it. And if there is an accomplishment, we can reach it. We can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. Happy birthday, and we love you.
Some say my future not that bright. Some say I'm useless, unholy, and not living right. But the beginning of the day, I look in the mirror and say, I am somebody. Oh, I believe the future's in my hands. I tell every girl, boy, woman, or man, if I can think it, I can receive it, create it and believe it. So I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody. Oh, I am somebody.
We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement. Join Rainbow Push.
Around-the-clock medical watch has been ordered for Cesar Chavez, head of the United Farm Workers Union. He has been on a fast protesting the use of pesticides.
Today is day 30 of Cesar Chavez's water fast. Today he's lost approximately 30 pounds to about 17% of his body weight. We are getting to a critical point of his fast here.
In 1988, Cesar Chavez launches a hunger strike known as the Fast for Life on behalf of organizing the United Farm Workers. After 36 days of fasting, when Chavez could no longer physically continue the toll of the fast, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. answered the moral call of solidarity, along with a host of committed like minds to support and provide buoyancy to a fatigued Chavez.
Jesse Jackson touched on issues that were important to a lot of Americans of all races and all backgrounds who didn't feel that they were represented.
Hands that pick cotton will pick the next president of the United States of America. Those kinds of sayings help people to believe and understand that we had a right to be a part of the real politics of this country.
Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it.
I was trying to carve out a lane of healing, or a lane of hope, a lane of reconstruction and revitalization. I wanted to try to pick up the broken pieces and connect them.
I was thinking about how even then you were thinking about the next generation. After that, you invited all of us to go out with you to dinner, and we went to this strange little place called Chicken Hut in Durham, North Carolina. I remember when we walked in, the lady was excited to see you, the owner, and she said, Reverend Jackson, whatever you want, it's on the house. And I remember that day that you took your wallet out and said, no, I can pay. If you want to give somebody something free, give it to one of the brothers on the street. Give it to somebody that can't pay. A whole lot of young people, we were watching that day, and we watched and we learned from you that really when we serve and when we are gifted, we're really supposed to be more concerned about others than our own self.
Reverend Jackson was Superman growing up. And all of us just stood a little bit taller because we were part of the organization. Our chests poked out just a little bit more because we were under the tutelage of Jesse Jackson. And as I think about it, Black middle-class America owes a great deal of debt to Reverend Jackson for the work he's done. And I'm saying really across all industries. I mean, from the automotive industry to the healthcare industry to the retail a component of industry to oil and gas, to franchises. I mean, Reverend knocked down those doors so that African American males and females would have an opportunity.
One of the greatest ways you can pay tribute to someone's work is to come alongside them in the fulfillment of that work. Jesus, inviting the early disciples, said to them, "Come follow me." And that word follow in the Greek literally means come partner with me. I've been privileged to have a front row seat to partner with Reverend Jackson in his world mission for human rights.
He proved that a black man could go out there and stand on his own, master the issues, master foreign policy.
Hi, I'm so happy to meet you.
I got this call from Attorney C.K. Hoffler, who was our friend and our attorney and board member. Said, my friend's daughter is in captivity. Will you help? Of course we'll help. I was made aware of the work she had done by her mother and by Attorney C.K. Hoffler. But I'm sensitive to the Euro-U.S. relationship, compounded by the Trump era, frankly.
The hardest thing was not knowing how long I would be there. So they were throwing around some pretty long sentence terms.
We met Reverend Jackson Washington. In the wee hours, we organized a meeting with the ambassador and other political figures, and Isabella was freed within hours.
I had no idea about Reverend Jackson's involvement until after I got back and started to hear how things had developed on this side. I'm here thanks to you, and I'm really more grateful than words can express.
Thank you for allowing us to serve.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson, along with former POWs and U.S. servicemen Andrew Ramirez and Christopher Stone, were honored to help commemorate the 20th anniversary of the civil rights leaders securing their release and that of Stephen Gonzalez from captivity in Yugoslavia 2 decades ago.
They've been in isolation for 32 days. Heads covered, taking them place to place to drive them crazy.
We did not want to miss this chance to express our gratitude to those who placed themselves in harm's way to advance the cause of humanity.
The men and their families were celebrated at Rainbow Push as they shared the story of how they were captured on March 31st, 1999, while on a peacekeeping mission along the border between Kosovo and Macedonia.
We took direct fire on the vehicle. We truly did not believe that once they captured us, anything good was going to happen.
But it did when Jackson put together a delegation to travel to Belgrade to ask Yugoslavian President Slobodan Milosevic to release the American soldiers. After 33 days, the soldiers were freed.
They are brave, and I will always be eternally grateful for the efforts and the courage that it took.
Once home, the men visited Rainbow Push, and just like 20 years ago, went to Wrigley Field for a Cubs game.
Reverend Jackson, you told us in our first meeting in Belgrade, through our scars come our stars. Well, here with our families today, we see that you were right. Thank you.
Those experiences, just to see the incredible impact that he has internationally by picking up a phone, by going and meeting with diplomats to free U.S. citizens, is unparalleled. Because what the U.S. government couldn't do, Reverend Jackson did.
People often ask, why should I vote? And to be honest, voting is a sacred right. And if it wasn't so important, then there would not have been a distinctive effort to minimize one's vote. So while the 2024 election may seem far away, it really is right around the corner. So I want to encourage you to start thinking to yourself, do I have my voter plan together? Do I know where my polling location is? Do I know who's gonna be on the ballot this election? And don't just ask this question of yourselves, but I wanna encourage you to talk to your family and friends about this as well. Because here's the thing, voting is the one way in which you can actively participate in bringing about the change that you wanna see. But to be completely honest with you, voting alone is not enough. It is so important that those of us who can and are willing to do so, that we put forth the effort to assist those in our community who might have challenges at the polls. So if you are interested in assisting others, then I would like to encourage you to participate in election protection. There are so many components to the election protection program. We have a hotline of volunteers who answer questions for those who call in, but we also have an election protection program where we have poll monitors and we have poll watchers. And this is where you can actively participate in your community and be at the polls to assist voters and to monitor what's going on at all times. If this is something that you are interested in, please reach out to us at Common Cause Illinois, where we would love to talk to you more about the program that we have. As I mentioned, it seems like the primaries are far away, but they are just around the corner. So make sure that you're prepared and that you have everything together for you to be able to vote. And the very first step that you need to take to do that is make sure that you're registered. But please be an active participant in this upcoming election, and don't just stop at voting. Try to find some of the various ways that you can get involved, whether it's election protection or other programs that might be out there. And if you yourself are a voter who runs into issues at the polls, then please be sure that around election time and during early voting that you reach out to the hotline 866-OUR-VOTE, and someone will be there to assist you.
I called Rev and said, Rev, we need you over here at Pittman Park. Rev came.
There was 3 machines all morning. The 5 machines that they just brought here, 10 minutes ago, 5 new machines. So they already had machines, they just held them back, and that was a protest.
Reverend Jackson called officials immediately, and 5 additional machines were delivered. As the machines were installed, people began to chant.
This is my birthday, and I feel that a birthday is a landmark. We should do something meaningful and sacred on a sacred day. Inmates, we want to register them to vote. 6,000 inmates here. So we're going to meet with the inmates today. We're going to meet with the judges, the state's attorney. Those who can get out, we want to get them out of jail and be back on the streets with some commitment to make society better.
It would be unthinkable and beyond one's imagination the astounding heights he has reached and the inimitable contributions he has made to the world and to mankind, too many to mention. From the head of the student government at North Carolina A&T, a theological student at the Chicago Theological Seminary, to an assistant to Dr. Martin Luther King, to the head of Operation Breadbasket, to the president of Operation Push, and the undeclared leader of the Black world. President Bill Clinton named him a special envoy to Africa during his administration. Candidate for the President of the United States in 1984 and in 1988, where he taught his many, many supporters and followers the mechanics and analogy of a quilt, the beauty and significance of a rainbow, and the importance of the necessity of the vote. He encouraged many Black people to register to vote.
It's hard to imagine how we could have come as far as we have without the creative power, the keen intellect, the loving heart, and the relentless passion of Jesse Louis Jackson. And God isn't done with him yet.
Reverend Jackson is on his way to Paris to receive the highest French award given to any civilian. We're excited. There's a whole delegation with him. You're going to see clips of them as they land in France.
Reverend Jackson was appointed commander of the Legion of Honor at Élysée Palace in Paris. It is the highest civilian and military honor awarded by France. President Macron says it's a way to recognize Jackson's long walk towards emancipation and justice.
was born in Greenville, South Carolina, October the 8th, 1941. There's a hero if you look into your heart. You don't have to be afraid of what you are. There is an answer if you look into your soul. All of the sorrow that you feel will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. And you cast your fear aside, 'cause you know you can survive. And when you feel all hope is gone, look inside you and be strong. And you'll finally know the truth, that a hero lies in you. Oh, yes it does. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. And you cast your fears aside, 'cause you know you can survive. When you feel all hope is gone, yeah, look inside you and be strong. And you'll finally know the truth, that a hero lies in you. There will be tomorrow. It's time you'll find a way. And a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. And you cast your fears aside, 'cause you know you can survive. And when you feel all hope is gone, look inside your chest and be strong. And you finally know the truth, that a hero lies in you. Yeah, hero lies in you. He is our hero.
Congratulations, Dad. I stand here today with an overwhelming sense of gratitude and respect for the people of this great city, the city of Chicago. And I want to thank the Honorable and great Mayor Brandon Johnson and First Lady Johnson for working with the elected officials, with the activists in the church community to bestow this honor upon my father, Reverend Jesse Jackson. As a member of the Jackson family, I am indebted to the respect and kindness that you show my father on this day of his 83rd birthday. And what a fitting way to wish Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson a very happy birthday, giving him a key to the city he is truly considered to be his home. I think it is entirely appropriate to give great men and great women flowers while they can still smell them. People who make an indelible mark on the lives of millions of people, who push the moral arc of this nation in the right direction, should know that their work has not been in vain. And if Jesse Jackson had not been born, Dad, 83 years ago, we would have had to create one, because the history of this nation would not be the same without you, Dad. The more I think about his life, the more it becomes clear to me that while we cannot choose where we are born, we do get to choose where we call home. Sweet home Chicago. The story of Jesse Louis Jackson cannot be told without also telling the story, Mom, of the city of Chicago. I submit to you today that all of the fire and all of the fervor that Jesse Jackson amassed in order to keep the light of the dream alive, he got it from his interactions from the city of Chicago. When the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. assigned a young Jesse Jackson to lead the breadbasket campaign from the city of Chicago, Reverend King created a relationship between a man and a city that would stand the test of time. When the Reverend Clay Evans put his arms around my father and embraced him as one of his spiritual sons, Reverend Evans was cementing an indelible relationship between a prophet and his people. That's why it is altogether fitting that we should be here today. Dad, you didn't change the Democratic Party from New Orleans, you changed it from Chicago. Dad, you didn't make corporations include African Americans in their contracts and leadership positions from Wall Street in New York City. You did it from Chicago. And let's be very clear, Jesse Jackson didn't run for the presidency of the United States in 1984 and 1988, thereby lighting the way for those who would come behind him to believe that it was possible from Atlanta, Georgia, or from Los Angeles, or from Houston, or from Raleigh, North Carolina. He did it from the city of Chicago. There is a magic between this man and this city that allows great things to happen when people come together, because there's no place like Chicago. The city of broad shoulders, the city that works, the Windy City, Chi-Town, my kind of town, the city that was meant to be, the city by the lake and the prairies. You did it right here, Dad, from Chicago. And when you come here, and when you come from here, all Chicagoans, you stand up differently. When you're from Chicago and you face the bitter cold in the winter and the hard heat from the summer, you walk in the room because your blood is different. People from Chicago don't bow their heads, and we don't duck our tails in between our legs in the face of opposition and conflict. We come from Chicago. Being from Chicago gives you a dignity in the sense of self-respect that makes you shine when others are afraid of the light, Mayor. So Chicago, I want to thank you for embracing my father and being so good to my family. Chicago, you gave my father and my mother 2 representatives into the House of Congress. Thank you, Chicago. I want to thank you for that. Thank you for being a remarkable city where great things are possible. Thank you for having given Jesse Jackson the key to the city. The Jackson family gives you the key to our heart. God bless you, and I thank you so very, very much.
Happy birthday, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Happy birthday. We're here to celebrate you on this day. Chicago is very pleased and proud to have you as our son, father, and brother, champion. I'm grateful that there are so many amazing people that are here today, elected officials, friends and loved ones, and even to the press corps. Thank you for covering blackness the right way. You know, as we gather here today to not just lift up the accomplishments of Reverend Jackson and his legacy and celebrate, this is also an opportunity for us to be reminded that there is only one pathway forward. And I do wish, much like Reverend Jackson probably wished, that the road would be easier. But we knew that the road to freedom would be long. And when President Nelson Mandela told us that story of that long road to freedom, he knew that one day that the city of Chicago would be a part of that story. In fact, President Mandela is the last person in the city of Chicago to receive a key from an administration. Reverend Jackson, you are a lifetime and in living color. And you understood that the color had to be multiple colors. The Rainbow Coalition that you understood, but through the lens of our personal experiences as Black people, you've been able to eloquently and profoundly stitch together the hopes and dreams of not just our ancestors, but the hopes and dreams of other people groups. And you were able to prophetically connect our hopes and aspirations to people who also sought justice. You've empowered the lives of people all over the globe. And so, yes, this is a celebration. And yes, it is truly my honor to be a part of this celebration. But I want you to be very clear that this is about us cementing your leadership into the halls of power for generations to come. You know, I'm grateful for your wife, Mrs. Jackson. I am. There are very few people on the planet that you can be afraid of and still want to hug. Sorry, Mrs. Jackson, but I'm just for real. But your creativity and your bravery and your steadiness has shepherded this moment into existence. And I know that because I am not the man that I am without the Black woman that I lay down with every single night. And so, as the history maker that you are, the first Black woman, first lady in the history of Chicago, next to the first Black first lady of the globe, Stacey Johnson and Jacqueline Jackson, God bless the two of you. Reverend, back to you. I'm going to give you a few more seconds here. But your leadership and your wisdom and advocacy is loved. You know, you said something to me some years ago. You said, Brandon, people celebrate the Jackie Robinsons of the world. But they often forget about the Willie Mazes. You said, Brandon, you're Willie Mays. You said that. But what I'm so appreciative of, you understood that it wasn't enough to be the first. That your legacy only matters based on how many people you can bring along. And Reverend, from the White House to corporate leaders, you have produced Willie Mazes all over the world. And so with that, in closing, we thank you. We thank you that the long road to freedom and our liberation is a little bit shorter now. Your mentor said that he may not get there, but I can see on the other side of the mountain. Put me in A flat. No, I'm teasing. Almost, Reverend Jenkins. I almost went there. But I can see on the other side of the mountain that whether you're a black boy, white girl, brown, black, brown, white, Asian, you understood that we can stand the test of time, and those who wish to disrupt this movement, make no mistake about it, the city of Chicago will not only be better, stronger, and safer. The city of Chicago will be what your mentor prophesied a generation ago. When he came to the west side of Chicago, Dr. King said that if we can figure out housing in Chicago, if we can figure out public education in Chicago, if we can figure out transportation in Chicago, if we can figure out good paying jobs in Chicago, if we can figure out healthcare in Chicago, if we can figure out environmental justice in Chicago, we can do it anywhere in the world. Well, Chicago, guess what, you all? The world is ready for transformation because we have figured it out because of Reverend Jesse Jackson. God bless you. Thank you very much. I, Brandon Johnson, mayor of the greatest freaking city in the world, the city of Chicago, do hereby proclaim October 8th, 2024 as Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior Day, and I present to you the key to the city of Chicago.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children. Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution. Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive. Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive.
We want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
Going forward by hope, not backwards, by fear.